I solemnly swear that I am up to no good.
Messrs. Mooney, Wormtail, Padfoot and Prongs are proud to present the Marauder's map.
If you succeed tonight, more than one innocent life may be spared.
Expecto Patronum!
Hey everyone, welcome to Hogwarts, a podcast. Alright, so we are back with another episode of Hogwarts, a podcast. We're doing Chapter 20, The Dementors' Kiss. It's a really short chapter, so we'll try to dig as much out of it as we possibly can. In our American version books, it's only like 8 pages, but anyway, we'll do our best. Mollie's back with us.
Hello!
So we had a lot of discussion in the last chapter. There was a lot going on.
Yeah.
But we will try to get as much out of this chapter as we can. What really happens in this chapter is they leave the Shrieking Shack, which is a hassle in itself, trying to get everybody out of there with Pettigrew bound up and Snape being unconscious. They try to get out, and then when they get out of the tunnel under the Whomping Willow, Lupin starts to turn because Snape had mentioned that he hadn't taken his potion that night and it was a full moon because, you know, of course, whatever can go wrong will go wrong in a Harry Potter book, so...
Absolutely.
So that happens, and then all chaos ensues. Pettigrew escapes. Sirius bolts after Lupin to try to control him, which is a vicious fight that they describe.
Yeah.
And then Hermione wants to go back to the castle and get help. Harry hears a dog whimper in the background, and he just takes off after Sirius, to which he finds a whole boatload of Dementors, which is a problem. Tries to conjure a Patronus. It is not happening for him. And then he's saved.
Yeah.
So, we'll kind of dig into it a little bit more. One of the biggest things in this chapter is Sirius has this great conversation right off the bat with Harry about, like, hey, I don't know if you know this or not, but your parents made me your godfather. I'm technically a legal guardian for you.
Yeah.
So, and then he's really, like, funny about how he kind of approaches this, because he takes a couple of pauses and he's cautious and he's like, you know, I understand completely if you want to stay with your aunt and uncle, and but if you wanted to, like, and then Harry, I think, just cuts him off at some point and was like, wait.
Are you insane? Of course I want to leave the Dursleys. You've got a house? When can I move in?
When can I move in?
There's no stranger danger happening right
now. No. It's a testament to how awful the Dursleys are to Harry that he's willing to move in with this accused murderer who he's really just met for the first time.
Yeah.
And has gotten... As much as they did go into a whole set of monologues about what happened,
right?
Still, you're just taking people's words for it at this time. So, and you just did this. You're in a heightened emotional state, and you're just like, nope, I'm moving in.
Yep. I want to see a, what is that show? 2.5 Men with Lupin and Sirius and Harry. I don't know anything about that show, really. I've never watched it, but...
that would be interesting.
Yeah.
That would be really interesting.
Like
them just all chilling at Sirius's house.
Yeah, just a spin-off of that. And
Sirius trying to figure out how to be, like, a father figure.
Yes.
And, like...
Lupin being the, like, you know, therapist between all of them.
The straight man of, like... Sirius, he's a kid. You can't do this.
Right.
Like, I could see the 2.5 Men thing playing out.
Yes.
Oh, that'd be funny.
Yeah.
I also took note of the Harry, like, when can I move in part? Per Harry and his life, as soon as this sudden burst of hope and happiness comes in, they get outside of the Whomping Willow, And the moon comes out from behind the clouds, and Lupin starts to transform, and you get a description of Lupin's transformation, which just sounds painful.
Yeah.
And Lupin and Ron were manacled to Pettigrew. And Lupin had his wand pointed at Pettigrew's chest if he were to transform. Meanwhile, Sirius is, like, hovering Snape down this hallway, bumping his head on the ceiling and dragging his toes across the stairs and such. Not really caring about any of that.
Zero cares.
Yeah. But Lupin breaks free of the manacle with Pettigrew, which honestly is probably the best case scenario for Pettigrew and Ron. Because that could have gotten really bad really quick.
Yeah. I also very much enjoy just, like, the very first sentence of this chapter. Like, Harry had never been a part of a stranger group. Like,
that says a lot.
Yeah.
But it is a strange group, I must say.
Is.
That is a good leading sentence for a chapter.
Yeah.
I like it.
Yeah.
After Lupin transforms, Sirius transforms very quickly. And they have a very intense back and forth. Where they're, like, clawing at each other, biting at each other. And so we talked about, when Anna was talking about Animagus, and when Lupin was talking about his transformation, he would talk about how them being there, their presence, the other three, would help calm him and help keep his mind somewhat. Mm-hmm. Now, obviously, Lupin has been without Sirius and Peter and James for 12 years.
Yeah.
But now you actually have two of the three others there present.
Right.
And it does not seem to mellow Lupin out at all, in the very least. And I had brought up the question of, like, well, it might matter who, what mindset those people are in. Mm-hmm. Because Lupin, James, and Peter back in the day were going to just hang out with their friend who happened to transform into a werewolf.
Right.
Here, you have Sirius frightened because there's children present, including his godson, who's the son of his best friend forever.
Yes.
Present and in very clear and present danger.
Right.
So he's maybe a little bit more alarmed than he was in the past. And Peter is obviously in a whole state where he's afraid of his life, he's afraid of Dementors, he's afraid of his two best friends, he's afraid of a lot of stuff right now. Neither one of his friends are probably in the right mindset to be like, hey, let's chill and calm this down and let's just hang out.
Yeah. I bet you, according to Trelawney, the feng shui is not a good, it's not a good environment.
It's not. No, we need more
perfumes.
We need more perfumes. We need it to be a little bit warmer.
Right. The feng shui is not there for a nice, calm, fun experience.
Can you imagine them turning the Shrieking Shack into, like, Trelawney's?
Oh my god.
Can you imagine? That would probably, I'm assuming the aromatic scents would probably set Lupin off even more.
Probably. This is not a comic situation.
No.
Yeah.
Oh, man. So all chaos pretty much ensues at that point. And stuff goes crazy. Peter transforms in the chaos with an unconscious Snape who has been out the entirety of Peter Pettigrew's man experience here.
Yes.
And Sirius and Lupin are obviously distracted, so Peter takes the opportunity to be like, peace.
Bye.
I'm out. Transforms and runs away. And then Lupin's like, forget this, I'm not fighting with this big black dog anymore, I'm out. Yeah. So he takes off. Sirius takes after Lupin, which leaves Ron, Harry, and Hermione to be like, what are we gonna do?
Right.
We need Pettigrew. Mm-hmm. Otherwise, this all falls apart. But also, there's an accused murderer and a werewolf running loose. Hermione, being Hermione, is like, we should probably go to the castle and get help. Yes. Like, that's probably the next step.
Yes.
And I believe Harry almost considers it for a half second until he hears off in the distance the whimper of a dog. And he just bolts in the direction of that sound. And what he comes up on is Sirius in human form, lying on the ground with Dementors starting to circle. Because as he gets closer to Sirius, he can start feeling that cold, crushing feeling, but he doesn't register exactly what it is yet until he gets closer to Sirius, and he's like, "Oh, there's not just one, there's a lot."
Yeah.
I think there's over 100. I think he says, or something like that. Similar to the Quidditch scene from earlier.
Yeah.
He's trying to produce a Patronus. He tries multiple times. He gets a wisp of a silvery cloud. Mm-hmm. That a Dementor, he says, almost like slaps out of the way. like whatever, not good enough.
Yeah.
And I believe he tries to teach Hermione how to do the Patronus charm, which does not go over well.
No.
Not exactly the environment you want to use for teaching.
No.
And you have Sirius in trouble. Hermione ends up fainting. You have Harry trying to fight as hard as he can, but now his mother's voice is so loud in his head.
Yeah.
And he says, "This is the last thing I'm going to hear."
Yeah.
While, by the way, looking into the full face of a Dementor, which is, I believe they're blind. I don't think they have eyes, right?
No, like, the description of them is, like, terrifying. Like, absolutely terrifying. Where there should have been eyes, there was only thin gray scab skin stretched blankly over empty sockets. But there was a mouth, a gaping, shapeless hole sucking the air with the sound of a death rattle.
The sound of a death rattle would scare the heck out of me.
Oh, yeah.
Because, like, obviously you're looking into this face. I guess you can call it a face. Or just a mouth, essentially.
Yeah.
And you'd almost, I mean, in Harry's sake, the death rattle is, like, not even that important of a detail because you're hearing your mother's voice as she's dying. But to any other person, that would be a terrifying sound and image right before your soul is sucked from your essence.
Oh, for sure.
And we've talked on the podcast before about, like, because Lupin talked about it. It's like, is any crime or is any person worthy of having that done to them?
Yeah.
I can't imagine you're living for very long after that, right? Like, you can't survive very long without, like, I'm assuming the soul gives you, like, a will to live almost, right?
Oh, I'm sure.
Because if that's gone from you and you're just like this husk, like, what's making you eat or drink?
Right.
It's an upsetting description, and
it's literally gut-wrenching, this whole Dementor.
Yeah.
Just in, like, how Harry, it's gut-wrenching.
Mm-hmm.
Harry's like, no, I'm finally gonna be living with my uncle and away from the Dursleys with my mom's and my mom and dad's best friend, and then your soul's being sucked away, and you're watching literally all of the happiness you just produced being taken away.
Well, they even mention that when he said, like, when can I move in? And Sirius smiled for the first time.
Yeah.
And Harry said that when he smiled, there was such a difference in how he looked.
Yes.
He looked younger, he looked healthier, he looked more like the handsome man that was laughing at Lily and James's wedding.
Right.
And almost immediately, those good vibes are just
gone.
Immediately stripped away.
Yeah.
As short as this chapter is, because, I mean, this chapter ends with Harry seemingly being saved by someone off in the distance who looks vaguely familiar.
Yeah.
And this big galloping, almost, I think he describes it almost as like a unicorn, almost, coming through. Like the light that it gives off, the brilliance in the darkness is almost unicorn-esque. That comes, gets all the Dementors away, and goes back, and he sees his figure almost petting it.
Yeah.
Before he blacks out.
Right.
And as short as this chapter is, it does pack an intense punch.
Oh, it does.
I mean, it's action, like it's almost wall-to-wall action.
Yeah.
After that little initial burst of sunshine and rainbows from the conversation.
Right. Again, very quick things happening at the end of this book.
Yeah. No, I feel like we are full on, like, halfway speeding down a roller coaster at this point.
Yes.
And, you know, we said in the spoiler section, I think a couple chapters ago, like, you guys, if you're still listening to us, you don't even know what's ahead of you, because this is just the start of a bunch of crazy chapters.
Oh, yeah.
And we're about halfway through. We're almost done with the book. We have 2 more chapters after this.
That's so crazy.
Isn't that crazy? 2 more chapters after this, and I feel like we're only halfway down that roller coaster.
I know.
I know. It's insane.
Yeah.
But, I mean, that's pretty much the chapter in a nutshell. Well, it's a short non-spoiler section.
Yeah.
But we will go ahead and hop over to spoilers, and we do have a couple of interesting things for the spoilers, because, and I will tease it right now, Mollie has an interesting McGonagall take, and I will read you the description I have in my notes. The McGonagall Mean Girl Downton Abbey take is coming from Mollie in the spoiler section. So be ready for that. And also, it's been a long time. Mollie didn't give her takes on this in the last episode, so we finally get Mollie's takes on the whole Trelawney debate that we've had book long. So go ahead and come back for the spoiler section. It's going to be a good one, I promise. So we'll be right back.
You foul, loathsome, evil little cockroach!
All right, so we're back with the spoiler section. Well, I'll let Mollie decide where we're going. Where do you want to start with?
Oh, man. Let's dive into the Trelawney, I almost said Maggie Smith, and now I did say Maggie Smith. McGonagall.
So your take, you really want to dive into the Trelawney McGonagall of it all?
Yeah, I could kind of. I mean, a mixture of both, because I haven't been able to chat about it. Mostly it's just been me at my house listening to the podcast, just yelling.
Yeah. That's fair.
So, I will say this. I'm sure Anna is, I know that was a heated debate, and Anna's going to be like, no! But Dan kind of changed my perspective a little bit on Trelawney.
Oh my gosh.
I was like, you know what? He makes some fair points. He makes some great points.
That makes me feel so good that I'm not completely on an island.
No. Because first take, Trelawney has always driven me nuts. I don't think I would enjoy her class. I think I'd be like, this is a bunch of hogwash.
Oh, I agree with you there. I don't think I would enjoy her class either, for the record.
But, that doesn't mean that her subject is for everyone, right? Like, it takes a different person to be involved in that. And she says that right off the bat. And you're like, okay, yeah, you're right. So my feelings have changed about Trelawney. Yes, she can be dramatic. Mm-hmm. And, years of being like, someone in this class is going to die.
Right.
Is a little over the top.
Sure.
But I have respect for who Trelawney is as a person and her subject, and the fact that there are people that, also enjoy the more spiritual aspect, I guess you could say, as opposed to more of the logical side of magic.
Yeah. It's important to note, as much flack as I've gotten for this topic, it's not that I'm saying Trelawney is a great teacher or a great character.
Yeah.
I'm just saying she doesn't deserve the flack, the amount of flack that she's received. So instead of being a terrible character or teacher, just saying mediocre.
Yeah.
Mediocre.
Yeah.
It's fine. I'm not saying she's good or great or whatever. I'm not saying I didn't enjoy her class.
Yeah.
And yeah, she does have a flair for the dramatic. But it is a magic school. And if we go back to the first lesson of all of our teachers, I mean, they all had a flair for the dramatic in their first class.
Absolutely.
Like Lupin with Boggarts was a big swing right off the bat.
Right.
Obviously Hagrid with the Hippogriff, he was trying for a big swing right off the bat.
Right.
McGonagall with turning her so like the animagus trick
Right.
is a way to flaunt transfiguration right off the bat.
Right.
They all have a flair for the dramatic.
Right.
Hers just was aggressive and,
Yes.
you know, maybe not the best way to flaunt divination, but
Right.
it got their attention.
It did.
So,
That is for sure.
but I'm glad I'm not completely on an island, so
No.
I'm happy.
She's less of a disliked character in my mind after that little debate. So,
I'll take it. I'll take that,
yeah.
and I'm sure as we get towards the end of this book, and I'm sure Trelawney will pop back up again, and we'll have her back and forth, but
Yes.
I'm happy I've at least made a decent effort
Yes.
for putting Trelawney on a better front.
Yes.
So
Points well made on both sides. And also, McGonagall being a little bit of a mean girl.
yeah, I gotta say I haven't been a huge fan of McGonagall in this book.
Yeah.
But what's your? I want to get into this whole McGonagall mean girl Downton Abbey
Okay.
take.
So, they have, in the movies, they have Maggie Smith play McGonagall. Like, spot on. Because if you are a Downton Abbey watcher, I am, of course, because of my inner old lady.
Fair enough. You were knitting while you were watching Downton Abbey. Yes.
And drinking tea, not gonna lie, has happened plenty of times.
Solid. No one's judging you for your Friday night activities.
Legit happened Friday, Saturday night. Okay.
There you go.
Anyways, Maggie Smith's character in Downton Abbey is just cheeky, just says it how it is type of person.
Okay.
And in a sense, McGonagall is that way too. I think we just don't see it enough. That she is just kind of snarky, says it like it is. This is how it is. And you put that up against somebody like Trelawney, who has a taste for the dramatics, against someone who is very logical and very like, no. Like, we don't need to have these dramatics. They're gonna butt heads. It's, you know, you don't get along with everybody in the real world, you know? So I think it's a good kind of representation of that dynamic. Yeah, I completely want to see now Maggie Smith become McGonagall and the Dowager from Downton Abbey. I want to see this this happen.
Interesting. Okay. The McGonagall and Trelawney, they are completely polar opposite individuals.
Oh yeah.
And you know, we've talked about before how it is, and the mean girl thing is spot on because it is a little like borderline bullying, but straight up unprofessional in the way that McGonagall kind of deals with some of it, because she critiquing is fine, but critiquing in front of peers and in front of students is
not always the best.
Not always the
decision.
best look. Yeah.
I could see though to a point where you put up with somebody for so long and they drive you so like crazy
Oh, sure, yeah.
that it's just bound to fly out of your mouth.
And I think Trelawney does feel that sense of, you know, inadequacy, because this divination is so different
Yes.
from the other types of magic being taught at Hogwarts. And her expertise is in divination, and it's not necessarily in charms or in transfiguration or potions necessarily. So, like, that's why she holds herself up in her tower, is because I don't think she feels like she's magically on the level of some of the other professors there.
Yeah.
So when she hears, and McGonagall does nothing to help this.
No.
So
Well, I think it's far less concrete than being able to transfigure something or being able to charm something.
Sure,
Like,
for sure.
she doesn't even know she's coming up with some of these prophecies. So, you know, there's an element of that where it's like, this is not a concrete, like, science or like potions, you know, like
Right.
I mix this potion with this potion and this is, or I mix it this ingredient with this ingredient and it makes this potion that does that, you know. So, I'm sure there are some ways where she does feel like this is not something concrete and I have nothing to show for it sometimes. I don't even know I'm doing it half the time.
Right.
You know?
Yeah, it's like, we've talked about, what is seeing and all of that. It's hard to prove.
Right.
Yeah, so it's interesting, but her and McGonagall are just two polar opposites. Yeah. And then you get McGonagall coming more to her defense in Order of the Phoenix when, an outsider tries to dictate what can and can't be done in Hogwarts.
Right.
It's an interesting dynamic.
Yeah, absolutely. And like the other aspect that you could probably get into this is like, I mean, we have fraud magic in our world that exists today, right? We have people that do tell fortunes, that do tell the future and all of that.
Magicians with targeted guesses and stuff like that.
Yeah, exactly. Like...
Mentalists, I think they're called.
Yeah.
Like, she is talented with the targeted guessing and the, I bet you this will probably happen.
Right.
The differences between the teachers can be more plain, other than maybe, like, Snape and Trelawney.
Yeah.
or something like that. However...
I want to see those two interact.
Well, I mean, we have seen a dramatic side of Snape here in the last, couple of chapters.
What if they went on a date?
Snape and Trelawney?
Yeah. Where do you think they'd go? Would they go to
No, they would do the whole what's it called? It's like it's where Harry and Cho go in 5.
Yes.
In Valentine's Day with the hearts everywhere.
Yes.
Is it like, I can't remember. It's not the 3 broomsticks. It's like Puttyfoot, something like that.
Madam Puttyfoot.
Something like that.
Tea room or
Yeah.
something. Yeah.
Oh, I can't. That's a sight. Well, in the last couple of chapters now, we've had Crookshanks being shipped with Mrs. Norris.
Yes.
Is Mrs. Shanks is the ship name. So what would Snape and Trelawney's ship name be?
Oh man, I'll let you guys figure that out. I'm not good at that.
That would be interesting. I feel like it's.
Yeah.
Oh man. All right.
Trelawney. Snelani.
Trape?
Trape.
That's an attractive name, right? Trape.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Crookshanks is actually Vernon Dursley.
Hot take.
Just kidding.
Just sliding a real hot take in there real quick.
The most ridiculous.
Straight from the forums back in the day. I'm just going to throw a bomb out there and see if anyone buys it. That would be a twist.
Yeah.
That would be way bigger than the Peter Pettigrew is a rat twist.
Right.
Which, do you remember you reading that for the first time?
I do, actually.
What was your reaction to that?
Oh, I think I was just like, my mind is blown right now.
Yeah.
And I just was like flipping through the pages, like reading as fast as I could.
It's like, I feel like now we take it for granted, but back in the day, that was a massive twist.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, man.
Yeah. And that's the thing that I am glad that I can remember those like first read-throughs, and how I felt. And that's like the brilliance of like some of JK's writing, where you're just like, oh my God,
Yep.
Yeah.
I have to, and that's what I said, is my reaction, I don't know necessarily what it's like, oh, Peter Pettigrew's a rat, like, that's crazy. My only reaction I can remember was to turn the next page and keep on going.
Right.
Because I couldn't put it down at that point,
Yeah.
But anyway.
Yeah.
Anything else on the Trelawney / McGonagall Mean Girl take?
Not really.
Or anything else for the spoilers for that matter?
Not really. Just the fact that, like, I immediately thought of Downton Abbey as Maggie Smith being the chicken lady. That's what they call her. It's if you watch Downton Abbey, you'll know what I'm saying. And just being a sassy lady.
I did like Harry's first attempt at teaching going so poorly.
Oh yeah, not good.
He does eventually figure out how to teach a Patronus charm.
Yes.
It was not here.
Yeah.
So.
Which I think is too interesting, because Patronuses are supposed to be really hard to produce, right? And like everybody's an odd, but then he like teaches a whole class of 5th-year students how to do a Patronus. Like, that says maybe a lot about his teaching style or, like, the talent of that fifth-year class.
Could be.
You know?
Speaking of which, I will drop a couple of more tidbits on some of the deep dives I've done recently. One of which being Lupin. I forgot to mention Lupin with Patronus, since we're on that topic. We don't ever see him produce a full-bodied corporeal Patronus. It's always wisps or just strong beams of light. Mm-hmm. Supposedly, he does that on purpose, and he purposefully doesn't create a corporeal Patronus. His Patronus, for those that are wondering, is shockingly a wolf. And though it's just a wolf, not a werewolf, it reminds him of his biggest flaw. So he hates seeing it. So he's purposefully doesn't. So that's an interesting tidbit on Lupin. And as far as the class goes, you just reminded me of this. I did some research on what's considered the original 40. Mm-hmm. So we've talked on the podcast before, like at one of the Quidditch matches about, like, JK said there were like 200 people here. How is that possible? Like how does this math add up? Where are these people coming from? Right. So she wanted more than 40 people per class. Okay. It ended up being 40. Mm-hmm. So the original 40 was a list of names, their gender, and their house. Mm-hmm. And it was interesting to see what names were put in, what names changed, and what names were left out. She said that some of the names that don't appear in the series, which there are several, in her mind, as she's writing the book, they were still present in that scene. Oh. She just didn't actually include them. Like, you'll get the characters that are mentioned once, like Mandy Brocklehurst, right? For example. Yeah. Mentioned. She exists. Yeah. She is a Ravenclaw. We just never hear of her after that one mention in, like, book 1. Right. And there are some that we just never hear of, period. Right. But apparently there's 40, which would mean 10 per house. Okay. And I went through the list, and there's maybe like 7, 8, 9 names per house that I can recognize and be like, okay, they're Hufflepuff, they're Ravenclaw, they're Gryffindor, they're Slytherin. But there's probably like 2 or 3 out there that I'm like, yeah. So I have the list. We'll get to it on a future episode. But that talented 5th-year class is what you were talking about. Yeah, it's a talented
group of students.
It was a particularly talented year. Yeah.
But then again, too, I mean, you have the Order who can, like, communicate via Patronuses, which... Yeah. I mean, then again, too, a lot of them are auras or high ministry people, so they're going to be talented in magic, you know, in producing a Patronus, but...
That's like a whole other level of Patronus. Yeah. Like, that's... Yeah. Sending messages through that. Right. How do they figure that out? Is that like a Dumbledore trick? That he's like, maybe. Hey, we can do this, like, let's do this? Yeah. I don't know. Because then that's like a foolproof way, because you just have to know each other's Patronuses. Right. And then you know that's a true message from someone else. It's not someone faking it. Right. Yeah. It's interesting.
More deep diving.
More deep diving ahead. We're fans of deep dives here. Yes. At Hogwarts, a podcast. So, yeah, maybe on our big roundtable end of the book chat, I'll officially have all of my notes on this, and we can deep dive into some of those. But anywho, I think that's pretty much it for this chapter. It's a nice short one. Yeah. Got anything else?
No.
Yeah, neither do I. So,
just besides the fact I want to see 2 things. 2.5 Men with Lupin, Harry, and Sirius. And then Maggie, Smith, McGonagall, Dowager, Downton Abbey.
I like the 2.5 Men idea. Yeah. There's a fan fiction for you.
Right?
So we have 2.5 Men, Sirius and Lupin raising Harry. Yes. We have the Sybil Trelawney, Severus Snape fan fiction. We've promoted fanfiction a lot. Anna was promoting the Wolf Star Lupin Sirius thing, which again would go in the 2.5 Men.
Right.
You could loop that around.
Yeah. Good stuff in the works. JK, I hope you're listening. And
Crookshanks and Mrs. Norris. We have a lot of. We could probably combine all of this into one fanfiction. Let's do it. We'll figure out a way to write it.
Yes.
Anyway, on that note, we'll wrap it up here. Let us know on Twitter and Instagram what you guys think on all of the ships that we just mentioned, on the 2.5 Men idea, and everything else. I'm just happy I'm not on an island anymore with the Trelawney takes. She's mediocre!
Mediocre!
Yay! All right. So for Molly, I'm Dan. Thanks for listening. We really appreciate it.
Bye!
Thank you for listening to Hogwarts, a podcast. If you like what you've heard, please click the subscribe button on your preferred podcasting app and follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Hogwarts a Pod.